Hey guys, I'm Darian from Healthy Life Designing. Today we are talking to tattoo artist Billy White. He's the owner of Red Rose Tattoo in Zanesville, Ohio. And oh my gosh, he is doing so many incredible things. He's inspiring. He's a humanitarian. He is out there doing things like no other. He's covering up hate tattoos of those that have been victims of human trafficking, those who have been in prison, along with a ton of other stories that he is here to share with us. Hey, Billy.
Hey, good morning, Darian. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Can't be better. You attack every day with positivity. That's the best thing you can do. So I'm doing well.
And that's exactly what you do. And you're so very passionate about what you do. Can you talk about how you're not only a tattoo artist, but you're changing people's lives, literally?
Yes. So I've been tattooing for 16 years now, and started when I was 19. Didn't really have any idea, the longevity I would have in the industry or the impact I would have or anything like that. But a few years ago, early in the process, you kind of start realizing that a lot of people get tattoos for various reasons. And a lot of that has to do with like healing or memorial tattoos or a lot of stuff like that. So I knew pretty early on that tattoos were very impactful in people's healing and their transitions in their lives. So shortly after the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally, I decided to be pretty vocal about how we could try to do our part in kind of ending some hate or erasing the hate. So I had made a little video about how I would do the first 10 cover-ups of anybody who had any, white supremacy, white pride, white power, KKK, swastikas, anything like that. I would take care of that, no questions asked. And that, I honestly didn't know where that would take me. I kind of thought it might be about a year before we would get through with 10 people. Even though I knew that it was an issue in my community, I didn't really expect a lot of people to kind of come forward. And they did. They showed up. And within the first 3, I kind of took that no questions asked mentality to a whole new level and realized that we had to ask a lot of questions. So there had to be a pretty heavy vetting process. And, that's what we've really tried to do since then is build relationships and, facilitate conversations so that we can actually move forward in the healing process. So that's what we do. Like you said, you touched on the fact that so we cover up any hate-based tattoos, which does include, swastikas. There's been a big movement for Confederate flags. A lot of people who have no connection, they didn't grab that tattoo because they connected it with any kind of racist ideology, but picked it up because they're just a good old boy and like a redneck kind of thing. And around here, that's very apparent. And but they've grown. A lot of these guys got this stuff when they were 16, and here they are my age, double over, and they think to themselves, yeah, like this just isn't who I am. This isn't the representation of who I want to be. So we cover a lot of those Aryan Brotherhood stuff that comes out of prison. We also help the victims or survivors. I'd rather say survivors of human trafficking and sex trafficking. A lot of the survivors have been branded with, their captors' insignias or different things like that. Just constant reminders of the pain and the struggle that they've been through. We also cover up self-harm tattoos. Basically anything that we think that the tattooing can be used as a really transformative healing process. We do, and we do it for free because we do live in a economically impacted area. My community definitely lives under the poverty line. So it's just kind of my way of giving back to the community and the people that, need it the most.
So what is this like? Because you are a very passionate, empathetic person, and I got that when you and I first spoke, and we really connected. And I can hear your heart in your words when you were talking about some of these things. What does this do for you emotionally when you get to hear someone's story that might have a swastika or gang related from a prison? What does that do to you?
There's varying levels of feelings and emotions that you go through. A lot of times, I feel really, really bad for these people because I have listened to them. Like I said, I build relationships with these people where you really find out, how much mental health goes into this, how much mental abuse and physical abuse and other things attribute these people. And help them on the path of to where they got into these hate groups or felt the need to, express their hatred towards other people. So I feel really bad for them. I feel encouraged that, people are addressing these things in their life now and that they're trying to grow and they're trying to learn and they're trying to move on. A lot of these people have, I just tattooed a man named Josh. Josh came from South Carolina. We've been talking for over a year, getting to know him, his wife, his family. This week as well, we had another client that came from New York, and these are people that I had dinner with these people. These are people that I consider friends and family now. I'm invested in their success emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, monetarily. So I feel a lot of different things for them. But my biggest feeling is just hope. Is just that together that we can move forward. And human growth isn't linear. It's challenging. And that's why we continue to have these relationships past the tattoo. We try to build those bonds and grow together in a community, because I really think that's the most important thing that we can do right now is just kind of come together, try to find understanding, try to put yourself in someone else's shoes, even though that seems completely radical, and realize that nobody's perfect and that, together we can really make some changes.
And you have made a lot of changes. You did a documentary based on all of this.
Yeah. A few years ago, shortly after I got pretty vocal about it, our local newspaper picked up the story. They ran it. And a documentarian named Cy Dotson, who lives in Minnesota, actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, I saw your story in the paper. I'm going to be coming home." He's from Zanesville originally, to see some family. It'd be cool if maybe we filmed a couple things. I kind of was like, this guy seems real non-threatening, and I honestly don't believe that anybody's going to show up to film anything about this. And here we are. We filmed it. It was, we only filmed for a day and a half, and it was a 13-minute short documentary that was Emmy nominated, that's traveled around the world, that people are still continuing to watch. I get messages from people all around the world all the time that say they've watched the film, that they've been impacted. I literally just received a card yesterday from an anonymous person from New York, no return address, that said, "We watched the film, thank you," with a donation. So Yeah, you just really don't understand how, at least I didn't understand what that documentary would do
The
for not
impact.
only me, but so many people. So yeah, here we are. It's been a few years. It's called Beneath the Ink. And the hopes are that we can continue to film more stories. I really want to do that. I think that storytelling is really important, and it would help a lot of people gain perspective on these people who have really made huge transformations, and I think we could really, benefit from that as a society.
And you were also given a special award, a humanitarian award.
Yeah. Well, I believe the one you're speaking of is the Martin Luther King Humanitarian Award that was given out, presented by our governor here in the state of Ohio, Governor DeWine, over the Martin Luther King holiday season. I was blown away. I got to meet Martin Luther King Jr.'s nephew, Reverend King, who is still practicing and preaching, and he's still an activist. And for him to validate what I'm doing, and for him to tell me what I'm doing is important, and to continue to do that, yeah, that's overwhelming.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that those awards, albeit I appreciate them. They are great things, but they're really just tokens of things that they further my desire to keep going. They're just things that kind of validate where we're at right now, but the work's not done. So
Exactly. I mean, and how crazy is it? I mean, I know this has been your journey for some years now, and it's like the world kind of caught up with you right now
yeah,
with everything that's going. It's crazy, and it's so empowering to see and to hear all of the things that you're doing. And I mean, are there some stories that you can share of some of these tattoos that you've covered up with some of these people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of them are terrible and terribly personal. But you have examples from people like, I mean, where do you start, man? It's just like when you say those things, they just start, like, everyone just kind of starts popping into your head, and innately you start kind of going for the worst of them. But I think a lot of people always want to go to the prime example of you're taught this lifestyle, that this is something that is passed down to you.
Yes.
And I wholeheartedly believe that. Those are prime examples. That is something that I hear quite often, from your dad was racist on varying levels, to maybe he was just a regular working class guy who said racist things, to people who are active members in the Klan or Aryan Nation. Then you have the offshots that you never want to think about. And you talk about the women who have been victims of, rape, and who their attacker was a person of another race that has then triggered this hatred for everybody in their lives. And you're just talking about such crazy trauma and things that I wholeheartedly don't understand. The only thing that I can do is approach it with love and care and concern and compassion for the person. But there's just this varying levels of these things. There's people who are in relationships with people who are white supremacists, who then take on that ideology as survival mechanisms. That happens. You have people who go to prison that never in their day, they grew up around multicultural, multifaceted people in their communities. They go to prison for whatever reason. and they're adopted into whatever cultural gang is relevant there as
because
a
that's survival.
Yeah. So you walk out of prison and you have, a lot of these dudes have a bodysuit of tattoos covered, and that all means something, that maybe even you've seen at the grocery store and you don't even realize that that's what it means, but that's what it means. And these guys are tortured by that. And I have a lot of compassion for not only them, I also understand that they've hurt a lot of people. They've done a lot of damage. They're reckoning with that. They're coming to terms with that as a person. And I by no means am the judge, jury, or executioner, here. I just want to facilitate growth. And I really hope that that's what we're doing here, because these people need it. A lot of times they don't have strong relationships. They don't have great communication skills. Like I said, they're economically impacted. They've never had anybody invested into their success, their happiness. And some of these guys are 40s, 50-year-old men, women who you can just tell a lot of their life has not been happy. And
you've covered up everything from swastikas, Hitler tattoos. I mean, isn't there like a barcoding type tattoo that you've even covered for the human trafficking survivors?
Oh yeah. I mean,
can you give us some examples as to some of the things that you've covered, like what they look like, what they are, and to add to that, how has this helped some of these people? Because you're wearing this, you get judged daily just by what is on your skin that was a bad choice that you made years ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe a lifetime ago. And the fact that you're able to, like, if it's a neck tattoo, if they're able to walk into a grocery store now and to have this represent something more positive, that's going to internally change that person.
Yeah. I'll give you a prime example. My client that just got down here from New York, spent 8 years in the penitentiary, 2 different stints, and he actually had a neck tattoo of a big Confederate flag. He didn't get it while he was in prison. Let me make that clear. So it was like a really solid tattoo. But he had picked up that ideology. He had always been around that ideology. And it only reinforced it when he went to prison. So here's a person who was raised in a biker bar. Dad owned a biker bar, facilitating many different biker gangs. And he's kind of caught up in that mentality that, like, these guys are my buddies, and this is this, that, and the other. So here's this guy. He's removed from prison. He loses his son. His son actually passes away. He overdoses, sadly. That's a whole nother conversation that we could get into. He realizes how temporary life is, how much hate is just like he doesn't want to be consumed by this hatred anymore. Like it's too much, So what does he do? His son always wanted to be like a property management guy, right? So he decides he's going to live out his son's dream. He stops what he's doing. He opens up Sonny's, he like names it after his son. He's got a successful property management business. All along, he's got this Confederate flag tattoo that every time he goes to a job estimate, he's wearing a big hoodie up like this, or he's wearing a turtleneck in the summer. And, he had swastikas on his arm that he would take a Sharpie. He said he carried Sharpies around all the time. So he covered it up.
In. Yeah.
And so here's a man who's putting so much effort to really change his life, to really like give back, and, it's just amazing. Like, here's a guy so you have swastikas here, you have a Confederate flag here, you have white pride with SS bolts which, is Hitler's, super soldiers, that's what that is. And, who has completely transformed himself, who,
Wow.
has love for everybody, that wants to give back to people, who is giving back to people, of people that, he did looked at before and would have shunned, would have thought negative thoughts about, now has love for them, now is caring for them, now is giving back to them. That is the transformations I believe in.
And
I
that's
think a lot of
incredible.
people, man, we live in a cancel culture society that if you've ever done anything bad at all, if you've ever made a mistake, you got to go. And that's really dangerous, because I know for myself, I'm not perfect. I've done things I'm not proud of. And I frequent circles of people that are like that. But I believe that, with the effort that you put in, with a lot of time and a lot of love, and addressing the things that, are holding you back, whether it be, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, your own mental health, then you can really make some changes. But it starts with you. And, those are the people that we're trying to help, or the people that are addressing their issues and really want to move forward.
So what about the women? That's something we really haven't talked about yet. If we could hit on that, I really feel like it would be different for a woman. I mean, because for one thing, we can't cover up as much as what a guy can with certain clothing, especially if it's 95 degrees or you live in Texas,
Yep.
and you're
Yep.
covered in these hate-based tattoos.
Mm-hmm. Well, a couple of things. I'm very fortunate enough that I work in a shop where there's 5 of us. 3 of us are women,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 men. We have 2 female tattooers, so I think it's really important that we are able to, by design, if they need to be tattooed by a female because they've been a victim of trauma from a male,
Yes.
maybe they don't feel super comfortable being. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm a fairly intimidating human being, especially if you've been victimized by a person that looks something similar to me. So we do have Jen and Mara. They're literally the best godsends ever. But
what are the tattoos? What are the tattoos you see on the women?
Okay, well, so a lot of people don't know there's an organization that runs parallel with, the KKK, the Klan, the Aryan Nation, called the Featherwoods. That's like a ladies' organization. The Klan has women's factors that go out, find young women, very similar to how human trafficking and sex trafficking is
Exactly.
You find weak people and you condition them,
Mm-hmm.
and you pull them in. So you see different things like feathers. You see the word featherwood. You see swastika. I mean, in our documentary, Jen tattoos over a swastika on a foot. Does a beautiful mandala design over it. That story is really complex. That's a person who was a victim of domestic violence, mental abuse, who took on the ideology of her abuser, believed in all of that for a while, gets out of that scenario, realizes she doesn't want that lifestyle. I mean, she's watching kids who are biracial, has love for these kids, knowing she has this thing on her foot, knowing every time she looks at it, she has to be reminded of these incidents that happened to her, reminded of her ignorance, her hatred, that isn't there in her heart anymore, gets it covered. That's all fine and dandy. We're starting to move on. But that doesn't end there, because if you continue to be around people who aren't invested in your success, you'll get pulled down again. And that's exactly what happened. She becomes a drug addict. She finds herself back onto the streets, and ultimately we've lost contact. And it's the saddest thing in the world, because you just have this hope that everybody's just going to just keep going and going and going. And one day we're all just going to be these beautiful, perfect, loving humans.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I've really come to learn that just that's not the case always.
Yeah, you can't help everyone. I mean, you can do what you think you're called to do, and that's all you can do. But another thing that we haven't talked about yet is, you mentioned, people not knowing what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes. And you've been taking donations for shoes, and you've partnered with another organization. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. I guess a lot of what we do here is based on our community and trying to make our community better. The whole idea of this place opening was that we could be a little freer and a little bit more unconventional than your typical tattoo shops. So we try to do a lot of different things to give back. One of which is, I love shoes. I've always been into sneakers. As a kid, I didn't always get the coolest shoes. My friends always had the super cool Jordans, and I didn't always have that. That's fine. My parents really worked hard to get me some of those things, and that's not the most important thing. But I always had new shoes when I went back to school. I didn't have to wear my old beaters or anything like that, or shoes that didn't fit. Mm-hmm. So for a few years, what I've done to kind of justify my sneaker addiction would be at the start of school and around Christmas time, I would kind of purge my collection and get them into the hands of kids that really needed them. So this year, with the impact of COVID and people losing their jobs, our community is even more impacted. So Eastside Community Ministry reached out to me. They said, hey, every year we service between 900 to 1,200 kids. We imagine it could be more. It might be less. Right now, the communication lines are broke down. So we don't really know how many we're going to see. But they will reach out to me. They said, hey, we know you do this. We've been doing this for about as long as you've been alive. Can you help? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So I have a fairly large social media reach at this point. So if I'm going to have that platform, I'm not going to try to use it to stroke my own ego. I really just want to use it to facilitate conversation and help the community and do positive things. So that's what I did. I just keep putting the word out there, like, hey, we're taking these donations. Please help me help the kids. I offer an incentive, $20, $50 off your next tattoo with us. Nice. And that's something I'm able to do because we all are invested in this, every single one of our artists believe in these causes. So they don't care. They know the time, the money, the energy is, it's worth every penny. It's worth every second. So yeah, we've taken away a truckload of shoes already. Our place is going to be kind of the hub for the gently used shoes. With regulations, with COVID this year, they weren't able to accept any of those kind of donations. But because I'm unconventional and per se don't necessarily have those regulations, I will be the hub for gently used shoes. So that's something we've done for years anyway. We're going to continue to do that. I mean, I know I have hundreds of pairs of shoes in my shop right now.
Nice. Well,
and yeah, we're just going to try to get some kids some shoes and make sure they have what they need. And
awesome. Well, I love everything that you're doing. We're out of time, but if somebody would like to contact you, whether they're trying to get a tattoo, cover up a hate-based tattoo, or be a part of all of this exceptional giving that you're giving, where can they find you?
I'm at 2814 Maple Avenue in Zanesville, Ohio. Feel free to stop by, see the place. I always say, give us a call. We do work kind of unconventional hours, but I mean, here it is 9 o'clock and I'm here, and most tattooers aren't awake. So
Yes.
You can find me on Facebook, Billy White. You can find me on Instagram. It's Billy White Tattoos. The shop, just look up Red Rose Tattoo. Throw me in Google. As funny as it, the kids say Google me. I always say I'm not a hard person to find. I encourage the conversation. Reach out to us if there's something that we can do to help. If there's something that you think you can do to help us help, please reach out. That's why we're here.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing all of this information. And everybody, Billy White, Red Rose Tattoo in Zanesville, Ohio. Thanks so much for watching. And until next time, we will see you soon.